All right, I'll be punctual and get us started. We're here for learning from each other, emerging leaders and their success stories. I am your host, Yvette Scorse, and these are your emerging leaders. It's so great to be able to have this conversation today, and I'm really excited to get to talk to these three amazing people. I'm the communications director at National Digital Inclusion Alliance. I've been working in digital inclusion and in communications for about 7 years. And I'm really passionate about stories and storytelling. So when I saw there was a session about stories, I was like, yep, that's the one I want to moderate. So great. I'd love for us to start with some introductions, and I'll just move it to my right. Teri? And actually, if you can tell us your where you're from, your organization, and also, since we're talking about leaders, if you want to share a leader that you look up to, that would be really great to kick off the conversation.
Okay, can you hear me? I can't tell from here. Okay, so my name's Teri Mumm, and I'm the Director of Community and Government Initiatives for a youth media nonprofit in Salt Lake City called Spy Hop Productions. We do mentorship and career development through digital media art. And let's see, what was the next question? Oh, I'm also an N10 Digital Inclusion Fellow, along with these amazing ladies here for this year, and I am the chair of the policy work group for our statewide coalition, Utah Communities Connect. So that's how I came to be in this chair today. So let's see, let's see, women, I don't know, people I look up to, leaders. I thought about this for a long time, and for me it's always been like the scores of women who have come before me in this work, and at the community level, largely BIPOC women. I just get so much energy and learn so much from them just throughout my entire career, and continue to do so. So that, I would say, would be my, it's not one person, but
Those warriors, like we said yesterday.
Keep me going, yes.
Anisha?
Yes, hi everyone, Oneisha Freeman. I am the Director of Partnerships and Programs with InspirEDU and a proud N10 Digital Inclusion Fellow. I am a part of an organization that supports digital inclusion. We're a refurbisher. We do no-cost computers to families, digital literacy, digital skills training, also technical support for the devices that we distribute. And we also provide, I already said digital skills training. So we are based out of Atlanta, Georgia. I am also born and raised there. So if you ever want to come there, hit me up, let me know. I'll show you our digs at our warehouse, and you can come visit. A person that inspires me or that I look up to is Madam C.J. Walker. Madam C.J. Walker is a beautiful person that represents not only a businesswoman, but a philanthropist. So one thing that a lot of people don't know about Madam C.J. Walker, who, do y'all know who Madam C.J. Walker is? No? Okay. Madam C.J. Walker, yes. Madam C.J. Right, thanks. Madam C.J. Walker is a very famous Black woman in history, and she actually invented a solution that helped you press your hair. So straighten your hair straightener. She is the first woman millionaire, female millionaire, not Black female millionaire, first female millionaire. And she has an incredible story. And actually, there's a movie about her that is, I think, on Netflix or Hulu. So definitely get to know Miss Madam C.J. Walker. But the reason why I bring her up is because she was a philanthropist and was actually able to, she actually built a community center that was, part of it was a manufacturing place where they manufactured her hair products, but also it was a community center. And so she built a space in the place where she did her work that employed others, that served the community. She giving back was a key part of what she did, and she broke barriers and busted ceilings before a lot of us probably even before any of us even existed. So yes, Madam C.J. Walker.
All right, that's hard to follow. Okay, so I work at the City of San Diego in the Department of IT. I've been there for 2.5 years. I started through AmeriCorps, which is like a federal program, and I've just been pushing my way to my current position ever since, right? Which they're just creating for me now. So my role is a lot of everything. It's managing stakeholder groups. So I manage and coordinate our city's digital equity working group that's attended by mayoral staff, I can never say that right, council reps, city leadership, frontline departments. I also coordinate our city's digital navigator leadership team, which is comprised of different anchor institutions, community-based organizations, frontline city departments, a lot of folks that we have here today, Computers to Kids, San Diego Futures Foundation, the International Rescue Committee are all part of that. And we're co-developing and co-designing our city's digital navigator program together. And I work on our city's public Wi-Fi rollout, we're building a digital navigator program together, like I said, a toll-free digital equity hotline, device distribution programs, digital literacy programs, and I'm working now on digital infrastructure, and I'm gonna learn networking soon. So it's a lot. And a leader, okay, so someone in the digital inclusion space who has been so awesome to me is Rebecca Kelma from the city of Long Beach. Her title is, she's like program manager or something, digital inclusion. Okay, so Long Beach, because in San Diego we're behind. Long Beach is a leader in the space, like close to us. And Rebecca, I have reached out to her, I swear, at like maybe 11 o'clock at night, and she's asking, can I see this RFP? Hey, can you come present? And she's always like, really responsive, so gracious with her time, always showing up to support and help. And I honestly don't know if I ever said like thank you in a really formal, so thank you, Rebecca, if you're watching this. But she's a fantastic example of a leader, yeah.
Great choice. Yeah. She's on our board too. She's awesome.
Yeah.
She just joined our board. Yeah. Thanks, Kelsey. So we have like some different organizations and ways that these folks have come into digital inclusion work. So I kind of wanted to dive into the collaboration and partnerships and like how SpyHop got involved in digital inclusion, and then we have InspirEDU and a city government. So kind of coming from different angles, and we found some things in common. So Teri, I'd love to know how you've merged digital inclusion into the work of a non-digital inclusion organization.
I'd argue with that, but well, I come to this work from prevention and youth prevention, and I've spent the last 20 years doing collective impact projects in my community to improve well-being of young people and our community as a whole. So when you look at it that way and you talk about social determinants of health and access and removing barriers to access, to me it's all the same work. It's just like where you apply that field. And I had been hired at SpyHop we were asked to form a prevention coalition in Salt Lake City to work with the urban young people in our state, and we had just formed in March of 2020, right when the shutdown happened. And it's cross-sector, so we have representatives from other youth-serving organizations, the police department, the hospitals, the mayor's office, everyone who should be at the table was at that table, and we couldn't really progress with the kind of public health piece of the coalition building during the breakout of a pandemic. It was really difficult, but we wanted to continue to serve our community and do something in the midterm. And our local middle school, after the shutdown, reported that after the shutdown in March of 2020, 50% of their students didn't log back online or didn't attend school for the rest of the school year. And so we just tried to figure out what we could do as a collective to help with that issue, and we did a lot of different things, but what led me here was we started a refurbishment project. We were just opening our new facility, so we had a lot of devices available, and we have partners in the tech world. And so we started refurbishing computers. The city, the mayor's office gave us her IT department and kind of the expertise that way, and we started. And I was able to get some grants, and we have a full-time lab at SpyHop now. We've moved it in-house, and just this month we started a internship program with high school students, and we have 9 interns right now who are learning refurbishment and running the program and doing donation solicitations and all kinds of things. So it's progressing. It's a little bit tangential to our mission, but it's starting to kind of find its way inside that work, and we're really excited about, you know, just addressing these issues and having equitable access for all of our students.
I love that. Oneisha, your collaborations and partnerships come more on the side of working with technologists.
Yeah.
Can you tell us how you do that?
Yes. So because we've been doing the refurbishing for 15 years, it's been a key part of our work. The way we get our devices is through our corporate partnerships. And so one of the things that we've been able to do well on is engaging their staff in the process. And so we actually have volunteer days. There might be one going on today, where people come from the companies that actually give us the devices. And sometimes they're not working on the ones that gave us, but, you know, they come to the warehouse and they, you know, clean them, they sort cords, they do QA testing, and it really becomes a team building opportunity for our corporate partners to engage their staff. I think a lot of companies are looking for ways to do more, not just give money. And so when you're engaging with the corporate when you're engaging with the corporate community, specifically the tech community, definitely think of creative ways to make it full circle for them. They can give and give back their time, which is in a lot of ways more valuable than the funds, because they're paying big salaries, you know, to people, and they want to give. I always say the time, talent, and tech skills, right? So if you can engage all 3 of those when you're talking to corporate partners, it's a really good way to you know, get those technologists involved. And I'll just also mention, outside of just like a volunteer day at our warehouse helping with the refurbishing, we've also tapped into their tech skills on the side of just, we have one organization called CGI that's creating an app for us to help us with our laptop distribution process. And they can do that from their remote sites, you know, and they love it. Sage and the Sage Foundation have given their time to create a volunteer portal for us. And this is like second nature to a lot of technologists. So sometimes if you have a challenge that you might be faced, and you have a connection, it doesn't hurt to ask. Some people have the resources to be able to commit, some don't, but getting really creative about engaging the technology community, because they get it. They get it, you guys. If nobody gets it, they get it, okay? Because they're making their living doing this work every single day. So they can easily imagine what it would be like if, you know, if I had to go without a device for 24 hours. That's like insane, you're right? It's like, what? So, you know, they really get it. So it's definitely an opportunity there. So I definitely encourage anybody to think about ways you can engage the technology community.
Great. The time, talent, and tech skills, and money.
I know, I wrote that down.
And funding. No,
Yes,
that doesn't
yes.
start with the T. But Kelsey, how do you expand your reach beyond the city to help community members get involved and lift up other digital equity champions?
I mean, that's like a really that's a really good question and a $1 million question. And honestly, there are very few exercise models that I've found, where community most impacted by an issue, so like by digital equity, is centered in government policymaking. And there's consistent engagement and constant feedback loops. So if anyone has any, like, I'm always looking, right? I have to say that government is really hard to navigate, both inside and outside. It moves really slowly. And I know there's reasons for that, and it's meant to be transparent, right? But it's frustrating and it's hard. It's hard for everyone, right? So, I mean, I'm fairly new to this, so every day I'm learning. Like, I didn't even know what broadband was 3 years ago, So it's, so I'm kind of like a sponge. I'm just trying to learn from everyone and absorb. And it's also really hard for me because I came from circles, leadership development circles, where we were sort of outside looking in at government initially, like, and pushing for change and activism. And what I realized working at the city is that you are a symbol of the city, like, and you represent all the history, the good and the bad, And so for this work, I guess, humbling yourself, right? Like, as a city employee and acknowledging, like, the systems in place that have marginalized folks continue to marginalize folks, and your role in that system. So, like, the racist and classist systems, we had a big discussion with our community organizations about digital redlining, right? And how it impacts San Diego specifically, and the history with that, and how it's come to fruition through lack of public-private investment. So acknowledging what got you here, I think, is key. Understanding that communities are resilient and that they know best, what they need and what the solutions are, right? They're experts. And as a government entity, like, I don't know, I'm still learning how you can support the work that's already happening. And I think it's just through connecting folks, through convening folks, trying to understand what are the barriers for folks and removing those barriers if possible. Maybe it's model building. But I think it just comes down to a lot of listening and asking questions. I've also Googled my way through this job. And so, like, if you wrote a blog, I read it. If you did a YouTube video about this, I've seen it. Like, I took notes. So I think it's just, constantly learning and just humbling yourself, listening, asking questions, and just trying to co-design everything, with folks.
I think that makes for a great leader, humbling yourself and constantly learning, no matter how many years we've been in digital inclusion. So I think that's great. I'd love to dig into the story part of this, which I really love. So I'd like to know, well, Teri, go ahead. How do you, specifically at Spy Hop, because you're kind of a media organization, how do you connect media and the arts and use that in digital inclusion work? Does that give you a unique spin on digital inclusion?
Yeah, so our vision is Youth Media Matters, and we strongly promote youth voice. And I personally believe that the young people, especially teens coming up right now, they're empowered and committed to solving community problems, and they have good ideas, and their voice is really valid at the table. And so in all of our work, digital inclusion, we've done projects around vaccines and the pandemic, and just tried to provide paths for young people to voice their solutions and to come forward and to work on projects. In addition to the digital equity work that we're doing, we're also working with the CDC Foundation, which is their first big collaboration between the National Endowment for the Arts and the CDC in engaging artists to build vaccine competence. the first project of this type where they formally recognize artists as being community leaders, as being influencers, or people who can positively impact public health. So we're really excited to have our young people involved in that project and involved in the TLP, which is our refurbishment project called the Tech Liberation Project. So, I just try to weave those same values around youth voice and promoting and validating art as a solution to our community problems.
I'd love to know a little more, like how do you get that youth voice into that program? How do you specifically, achieve that?
Yeah, it's really structural. Like for me, I'm a systems person. I've been doing collective impact work and grant writing for 20 years in the community. So I look for opportunities where I can write proposals that do that. So we have an apprenticeship program that works across several different medias: film, design, audio, all these graphic design, and game design. Like we do it all. And so like the CDC is a great example of a project that students sign up for these apprenticeships, and we treat the CDC as the client. So they are learning professional work. They go through the whole process of kind of learning about the topic and then coming up with what they think is the message that will impact their peers, and then developing those campaigns and those messages and doing it. So it's really trying to use my influence or my experience around funding and systems and structures, and how can we merge collaborative groups to make that happen and make those opportunities available for young people.
Oneisha, how does InspirEDU, and you specifically, not just your organization, how do you leverage storytelling to build relationships?
Well, first we prioritize it. We just finished our 3 to 5 year strategic plan. We worked on our marketing plan, and storytelling is at the forefront of that, because we realize that it's very important to share what we're doing with the greater audience, not just our funders when they ask for it in reports, but also like just with the general audience, so they can understand the language is shifting from digital divide, right, to digital inclusion. It's like we can be that subject matter expert. So we do that through telling our story. And so what we're doing a lot is using LinkedIn. I think we do a pretty good job on there. We are talking about our volunteerism and getting the stories told through them. We actually have a person whose title is digital producer on our staff, although he's a catch-all, just like all of us. Okay, he'll do. I know that. Right, exactly. I think that's all of us. We have a marketing manager on our staff, and she comes from radio and television. So we're very intentional about making sure we're telling our story, because sometimes it's almost like if you didn't talk about it or do the picture of it, it didn't even happen. It feels like that sometime in this sort of media-driven society. So we, are trying to collect things along the way. We ask our families if they're open to sharing with us, so we can follow back up with them later. And we have both written stories and photo stories and video stories, and we know we can't do it all. We try to, and it's really hard, but we are just setting goals on how many we want to do every month, how often we want to put it out there, and we just try to stretch as far as we can to share those stories. We ask our volunteers to one of the newer things is that we're trying to get people to write things for us. It's not as easy of an ask, so we want to try to give them some time to do it. But recently, we just asked one of the volunteers to just answer some questions So we just have, let them say it in their own words, because that's another thing. It's like we're going to always be our own cheerleaders, but like when someone else can be a cheerleader for you, and maybe it's not the person you're serving, maybe it's a board member. So like we have like 4 or 5 questions we ask our board members, why is our mission important to you? And then we start to hear these stories about how it's important because they were one of the people that we served way, way back, and now they're CIO or something like that, right? But if we never ask the question, we may not even know, their why. So we do the same thing with our staff. We ask them, why is this important to you, and other questions. And then with our volunteers as well. With our families, we are a little bit, we tread lightly, we want to be respectful of their circumstances and situations. But surprisingly enough, and I was telling this to someone earlier, like they always, a lot of times, especially when we're doing our device distribution, they ask us, how can we help you? Like the families, the moms, the dads, the grandmas, when we're doing those device distributions, they're saying, hey, can we, if there's anything I can do, just let me know. And sometimes we have to call them up and say, remember when you said, is there anything you can do? I think that in the coming years, we are going to try to do that even more, really let the people that we work with, that's connected with us and that we serve, tell our stories as much as we can for us, and share that out in their networks, right? We can share it in our network, but our network is definitely not as big as some of the people that we are surrounded by network. And so I think that's kind of that one of the approaches, or all of the approaches that we take in storytelling.
I think that's an interesting challenge too, like having authentic storytelling coming from an organization. So I like that point about them sharing their stories and their voices. Can we do Q&A at the end, or do you have a question?
Well, I appreciate that. I mean, they're wonderful programs, and the piece about understanding that the kids had gotten online and then hadn't got back on.
Can I ask you to go to the mic so we can get it on our live stream? Thank you.
Could you just say in the research that you found, whether it was anecdotally through asking the board members or you had some other data, did that change? Did you do something different in your programs because of that research? Like, so, because I was sort of looking at it, how can we use the research? So I was kind of wondering, in doing all of these, were you able to take some of that research and change something that you did or add something, is kind of what I was hoping you'd.
I can take that. So to use your example, that decision to do the tech refurbishment project during the close was data-driven. We had our Office of Multicultural Affairs did a really comprehensive survey. It was so early in the pandemic that they went through, service organizations, people working with our refugee communities. Like they used the existing networks that they knew to ask providers and community members what the biggest issues were, and actually devices was, I think, Shauna was number 1, I think, from that Office of Multicultural Affairs. It was staggering. It was like 78% people are reporting that they don't have a device to get online or affordable broadband. So that in itself, everything we do is data driven, and we try to look at just the well-being of our population in general, and where we can plug in.
Yeah, and I think in a qualitative way, like what Oneisha is saying about her staff and board being able to share why they're there, why they are doing the work, why they're engaged in the mission. I think just the exercise of doing that infuses energy into the work and into the organization. So I think there's a certain power in those stories and pulling them out too.
And just to add to that, we are emerging leaders, so we're still learning a lot. Right.
Yeah.
We're still learning. We are maybe we might be a step behind some of y'all and a few steps ahead of some of y'all. So we are still learning. But I will say that we were intentional about the platforms we use and the cadence in which we do it when we're sharing the stories, because of the feedback we've gotten from those different posts and things of that nature, you know. So we don't try to necessarily, you know, spend all our energy everywhere. We specifically spend our energy on LinkedIn because we have seen the results of people saying, hey, I heard about you, or other people sharing our message with their networks, and saying, you know, we want to connect with you for one reason or another, or we want to fund you, or we want to give devices to yours. We've like literally from our consistency in that specific platform. And so I think that if that shifts, we'll shift with it. But we're looking at, you know, that has informed the reason behind why we do it.
Kelsey, I'll go to you. How are you using some strategies to convince other people in the city that digital equity matters and that there should be more work around it?
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think so for San Diego, we're really far behind many other cities. We're the second largest city in California, and we're like light years behind a lot of you all, right? So I'm hoping to learn from you all, you know, while I'm here and always. But for San Diego, for the city, digital equity became a priority for leadership during the pandemic, right? And when I say priority, there was funding, there was one-time funding of $500,000 allocated to solve the digital divide by council. And that's awesome because like that's awesome.
We did it, we solved it.
Yeah. Or like, you know, like they're committing money and like budgets, you know, demonstrate priorities, and it demonstrated that it was a priority, but it was like, let's get all the low-income households connected to the internet. Figure it out, right? And so that's what the Digital Equity Working Group is been doing with community partnerships and you know, our key departments like libraries and Parks and Rec who are already doing the work, right? But yeah, so it's a priority in that sense. But how do you enculturate it? How do you institutionalize it? Like, how do you get funding that's sustainable? You know, not only for the city and for ourselves, but really like for our partners. And so that we're all working together collaboratively in an ecosystem. Because there are organizations that have been doing this work for 30 years in San Diego, like San Diego Futures Foundation and Computers to Kids, and you know, so like we're figuring it out. But I would say, what I learned working at the city is that I think in government or in cities, large cities, a lot of times departments don't talk to each other, or they talk to each other for specific reasons, but maybe not other reasons. Also, they have different delivery systems to the public. So Parks and Rec has a whole different tools and delivery systems than libraries, right? And so like, how do you collaborate across that? How do you build programs together as a city and with community partners? And that's what we've been figuring out. And we've been doing that with our Digital Navigator program. And the way we're doing that is we have a leadership team. We meet regularly. It's San Diego Housing Commission. It's a community college. Our CBOs and libraries, Parks and Rec, and we're developing and designing the tools from the ground up together, and we're utilizing our digital navigators, who are student interns. They're from the communities most impacted. They have the knowledge and the lived experience, so I'm really leaning on them, like, to help drive this. So I think I went a little off tangent, but I guess it's doing all the work and then communicating wins to leadership, but also showing how digital equity impacts every single thing that they're doing, every priority that they have: homelessness, infrastructure, digital equity is key to that. You know, it's essential. If you want our residents to be participating in the civic process, you need them connected, you need them to have computers. So it's just showing how their priorities completely align with digital equity and inclusion.
Amazing messaging. Love it. So you're emerging leaders. I'd like to know, what are you aspiring to in your leadership? What do you think leadership looks like in this space? Who wants to go first? I won't pick on Teri every time.
I'll go.
Go ahead.
Because the mic's here and it's like telling me
Yes.
to talk. What does leadership look like in this space? I think that's the question, right? So I think for me, and when I think about the fact that, you know, I was born at Grady Hospital, right? That's the hospital where all the black people were born, that pretty much at a certain time in Atlanta, that's where everybody was born. That if you was black, you was born at Grady Hospital at a certain time. And I think about how that translates to where I'm at today. I have a responsibility to my city to use my skills, to use my talent, to use my network to connect people. It's like I feel a responsibility to it. And so that means that if I have been put in a situation or position that has led me here, because I definitely wouldn't have thought when I was in high school to today that this is where I would be talking to you all. I wouldn't have imagined that. But because that is the case, I have to do all I can to get everyone I can in our city connected, to get everyone I can in our city trained, and to look for all the opportunities and all the gaps that are existing in this space, right? Staying in my lane now. I'm not trying to go into other people's lanes. In my lane, in our lane, and really trying to do all I can to do all I can. We cannot solve the world. So for me, I feel like you got to start at home. So I'm starting with all the Grady babies and our city, and then our state. Right, so I definitely think about, as a leader, you have to be a visionary, and you definitely have to, learn along the way, connect, with colleagues, connect with other community programs, understand the nuances in each different community, because they're not all the same. Help, like I said, learn from each other, share with each other, pool resources, and I think that's what leaders do. So my big vision is for us to be able to impact our entire state. I'm starting where I started, in Atlanta, but that's my specific leadership goal.
Beautiful. Well said.
You pushing that over here? Same.
Yeah, totally.
I'm a fierce champion for collective impact work, and so, for me, leadership has looked like helping is a bad word, but like lifting up other people and using the systems and the positioning and the work I've done over the years, the networks, to provide opportunities for other people to become leaders. I think that's the biggest thing for me is, how can we, it is an inequitable system, and to be in a place to get grant funding, to get money, to get resources, you have to have played in that system. And especially in Utah, as a predominantly white person or white community, I represent our urban community, and it's not predominantly white, but it's governed by, rural white legislators. And so to have worked in this system for 20 years and to be able to be in a position to receive grant funding or state funding, how can you parlay that to share those resources and to sort of transfer the power to your community partners who we rely on so heavily to do the work. And I'm just happy that we're seeing recognition of that, and we're paying our communities to participate, and realizing the labor, the emotional labor that goes into this work, and that they do it every day. And so we've done that. It looks a lot of different ways. It's nominating people for positions. It's sub-granting funds. We did a lot of that with the CARES Act. There were so many great grassroots organizations that were just working tirelessly without any resources because they weren't positioned to get that money. So we just took it and gave it to them. So I should probably say that, but anyway, that's my just look for alignment and goals and try to empower the people around you.
I would say a really great leader is someone who comes into a space like a meeting or an institution with an idea or a mission, and at the end of the day, everyone leaves thinking that it was their idea, right? Like, so they're really owning it, and they're moving forward and driving it. No one remembers whose the idea was, right, originally. I think that's like a really great leader, and also someone who like compromises all the time, but never compromises their core value system or their mission, right? Pushes back, knows when to like go with the flow and work with the system, but pushes back when it matters. Because I guess that's integrity, and I think that's super important. I have to say that this space, digital equity space, and there's just so much support here. Like Oneisha before the panel was like, hey, if you ever need help with anything, I gotta help me, we can meet. And it's very unique, this type of supportive space. I think it's driven by women and people of color who are doing the work and want to get things done, and that's really awesome. So it's all amazing leaders. Mm-hmm.
Great. I'm going to ask one more question, and I want to give time for Q&A. So if you have questions, please line up at the mic. And meanwhile, something that came up in our conversation when we were, having a meeting before this, was like navigating a space that's called equity in a place, a state like Georgia, a place like Salt Lake City. I think you touched on that a little bit, how there is politics involved. I'd love to know, how that maybe affects your leadership in the space, or how you kind of navigate that, or, yeah.
Do you want me to take that?
It's a big question.
I think a really good example, in our policy work group last week, we're in the process of advocating for more staffing resources in our state digital equity office as this infrastructure. It's the same thing everybody's doing probably right now, but making sure that they have the team that they need in place. But I think it's called, it's not digital equity, right? It's a broadband adoption, I think is the terms that we're using. And I do kind of come from an economic development world, so we heard a little bit in an earlier panel about that and how to frame things in a way that doesn't get pushed back. So, and it sucks to say that the word equity gets pushed back, but it does, and it's a non-starter for a lot of our legislators. And so we're just trying to frame things where's the alignment of the goals, where are the shared outcomes and the win-win for both sides, and really leaning into that. We can show outcomes, and we can show how this is going to be rewarding for everyone. So yeah, it's, it isn't where I would want to focus the message, but it's where it works. So
yeah.
This is a tough question because I'm really thinking about the best way to answer it. I would say that I started, one of the things is just helping people understand the terminology What does that mean in this particular space and how it's related to our specific mission and what we're doing? So I literally did a presentation to our board, and I had like the DIA definitions of digital equity and digital inclusion. Like I literally started there because I know that, again, the tech community gets it. They get, the device part, but some of these other things we're talking about, we gotta slowly get there. And I think the tough part for our organizational staff might be to like frame it in a way that is palatable, and that's not always a good thing to have to do, but sometimes you have to do it. And so I think it's a struggle a little bit. I think that we have a lot to learn. We have several, I've actually connected with a couple of people here that work in the equity space, and I'm really excited to learn from them so I can then take this back to our network and share. But I will be honest and say that I felt very invisible in rooms that welcome our mission and our cause. But I just, there's a picture of me that our development director took, and it's like we're in a room of it's all men in it's gray suits. And I'm like in a red dress, like red and black dress, like standing like, and we didn't even think nothing of it, but when you look at the picture, all you see is like white men in gray suits and me like this, right? So, and it was so representative of like the spaces that I am in, and it took me a long time to start to feel a little more comfortable, chatting with people in the spaces that have seen me several times and still, can't remember my name, just like I see you for the first time, I saw you just last week. But so it's a interesting space to be in as a woman in technology, a black woman in technology, a black woman in nonprofit technology. Like I could just go on and on, right? But I'm like, I was built for this. Like, that's how I feel. Like, I'm not going to run from it. I'm going to check myself, my attitude or my emotions at the door to an extent because I'm here for a purpose and a reason. And I'm not going to let that uncomfortable feeling keep me from those spaces. I have to be in those spaces. I have to, because it's going to be that one time that I do get the opportunity to have the right conversation with the right person, and they're going to be open to hearing me just because I'm there, and it's not a lot of us there, as it is. And I'm speaking specifically when dealing with the technology world, those types of events, right? But I do understand the importance of it because it's like my lived experience. I've never really heard that term a lot, to be honest, until I got here, like lived experience. And I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what that is. It's like my lived experience. So I can bring that back into the work, right? And be like so intentional about saying, oh, I remember when I was in this space, right? So when we start to build our STEM pipeline programming, and I'm wanting to build the next generation of tech leaders, they're gonna face the same thing that I face right now. So then how do I prepare them for that? Because we are gonna have to prepare them for that, right? Hopefully not. Maybe it'll be different, but if it's not, we got to prepare them for it. So yeah, it's like it's an interesting thing that I've just come up with in my mind as I'm saying this. So I don't know if I'm making any sense, but yeah.
I don't know. Pass. I don't know. It's okay.
You have no political problems in San Diego.
You can't. I mean, when you work in the city, I'm a non-political. I don't. You know what I mean?
All right. Do you advocate though for digital equity specifically in your work, Kelsey, or do you find that there are other ways you have to get around that or frame it or approach it?
No, digital equity, yes. Yeah, all the time, day and night, yes, I do. And it's not a yes, but I'm still understanding how power works and what you can do and not do, what you can say and not say. And I mean, it's confusing and yeah. I'm figuring it out.
That's a good answer.
Yeah.
Like,
Sure. Anyone have questions? Yeah, can you go to the mic, please? And if you can introduce yourself, that would be awesome.
Thank you. Stephen Miner, I'm with Community Tech Network. I want to thank each of you for sharing your experiences and thoughts, and I learned a lot from this, your panel, so thank you very much, and thank you, Yvette, for hosting this. My first question would be for Kelsey. You said the term digital navigator, and whenever I hear that term, my brain starts lighting up like that, because I have my own digital navigators program in San Francisco, and I'm trying to hear different ways on how to make it successful, especially if you made yours successful by creating a 311 program or a 311 hotline.
Yeah,
For
similar.
this. Can you explain more on your process and how you made it to be what it is?
Yeah, absolutely. And so we have a partner, San Diego Futures Foundation, and they have tech support staff, and so they kind of, so we've been working with them to harness their tech support expertise. And we thought, what if we're having our digital navigators go on site, on locations, in our digital equity priority communities, but we also wanted to make it accessible to everyone. So we decided to create a toll-free hotline where people can call in 50 hours a week, and it's staffed by a lead digital navigator that is managed by San Diego Futures Foundation, and then our city digital navigators that so it's kind of triage, so people can call in and they can be directed to the appropriate digital navigator for their need. That they have the language skills they're looking for, or a certain type of expertise. And then if folks need more in-depth, tech support, break fix assistance, then they will be routed to the SDFF's tech support team, right? So that's kind of how we've built it. And we are partnering with it's called 211 in our area, not 311, and we're partnering with them on maintaining a resource database and updating it and managing it for our digital navigators. Does that kind of answer your question? Okay, and I would actually love to learn more about your program. Okay, cool. Yeah.
Hi, everybody. Kim Nguyen from San Antonio, Texas, and I'm new to the digital inclusion space. What I'm trying to do is change the narrative on aging and encourage tech firms in particular to be more inclusive for older adults. So changing the narrative on aging, that's a big problem, right? It's a societal problem. But wondering if you have any guidance, Aisha, and Oneisha in particular. I've not had great luck so far knocking on tech doors.
yeah.
Just one company so far, but just any guidance from the group as a whole would be great.
Sure. What immediately comes to mind is something that somebody advised me to do when I'm talking about, I was going to be on this news thing, and I was like, I need some help. And he literally said, talk about workforce development. So my thought, what comes to mind is, how do you save them money by providing a person that is coming to the table with a myriad of skills that someone fresh out of college is not going to have. One of the number one problems in tech right now is talent. So there's not enough people graduating from all these fancy tech schools or anywhere else that's going to take all the jobs of the future. Someone that is aged will come to the table with soft skills, knowing how to communicate professionally, knowing how to collaborate professionally in a digital space, or maybe not in a digital space, but that's something they will be able to learn because they're open they're open to learning it. So I think that the value that you're bringing is not always give back to the community, because that's not always welcomed always, and it depends on who you're talking to. You know, you come with how can opening their minds up to maybe employing, I don't know enough about the program, but maybe employing people that maybe a little bit older that have been upskilled or that are able to be upskilled. How do they bring value to their bottom line? That's what you want to bring to the table to them. And then on the back end, right, the cheese on the broccoli is you're giving back. You're helping someone families be more sustainable, or, you know, all the things that we deeply care about, but they care about their bottom line. So if you can figure out how to show them how they can save money or replace talent or upskill. I've heard on panels of CIOs and CTOs how they, you know, the talent pool is a little imbalanced, right? And so those soft skills are super valuable. If anybody's hiring in here, you know how invaluable soft skills are to get people, and some things you can teach. And I know they're going to be coming to the table with a lot of talent, and you bring that first. That's our initial thoughts.
Any other questions? If not, final thoughts on learning from each other and being emerging leaders. Kelsey?
I would say leadership development programs are key. So we're at N10 Fellows. It's amazing. And I've been part of other leadership development programs. You know, when I was struggling, you know, I struggled to get through school. You know, I couldn't work because I have a chronic illness disability, so I couldn't support myself. And it was through these leadership development programs that I gained confidence and networks and support systems. So I would say, like, join one if you have one in your community, apply, build them, and fund existing ones. And what else? Remove barriers. So, like, if you're posting jobs and it requires a bachelor's degree, why? Does it really require a bachelor's degree? Just remove all the barriers, because you're eliminating it for a lot of people. And just co-design when possible with the people that are most impacted by the things you're designing, you know. Great.
I think I would just reiterate the collective impact piece of this work, and where you might be able to tap into existing coalitions and existing networks that, you know, we're all working for the same thing, which is to have more access, more equity, better living conditions for our community. And you know, don't reinvent the wheel. There's a lot of really great talent and people out there. Like, I was thinking about our substance abuse prevention network, which has an aging population and a seat at the table, and how they collaborate and how they deal with the same kind of challenges and messages around prevention. Like, right, people think, you know, old people don't need substance abuse prevention, which is it's just entirely not true. So I would just encourage people to, you know, as I'm coming to the digital equity space from other types of work, I just see so much alignment and how we can really tap in and share resources and provide more opportunities.
And I'm just going to echo, don't reinvent the wheel, because every time I'm thinking that I'm coming up with something new, it's been done. So that's a good thing. So success leaves clues. That's one thing we have learned a lot through our fellowship work. We're constantly sharing resources. You know, oh, how do you assess digital skills? Oh, I have one, you know, is it in Spanish? Yeah, I got a Spanish one. You know, it's like we really do not have to create full-on curriculums necessarily. Anyone that's new to this space, tap into N10, join. You know, it's worth it, because people are willing to send you resources. Yeah. And literally at the end of a lot of the courses, the person will say, email me, I'm here. They really are. Email them. They're there to help you. to not reinvent the wheel. We're here too. So as we do find ourselves developing something new, or the data is like a little bit here and there, right? And you're gonna need it. We all are gonna need it. So like finding as those resources are developed, definitely share and don't feel like you gotta like start a whole new thing. You're just gonna put your specific spin on what somebody else probably has already created, and it's gonna be unique to you, your team, your organization, your city, and that's great. But you will definitely already have a lot of great things that you can already use to get you moving along.
Thank you so much for sharing this time with us. Thank you, three, for sharing your wisdom as emerging leaders. And that's all. We'll return.